Cardinal Raymond Burke's Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in LaCrosse, Wisconsin, celebrates its 17th anniversary this week. And on Tuesday, August 5th, my next guest will preside at a solemn pontifical mass at the shrine, a traditional Latin mass. Here to tell us about it and its significance is the Archbishop of San Francisco, Salvatore Cordileone. Archbishop, thank you for being here. Before we talk about the Mass, I want to get your reaction to the news that just broke that Pope Leo is going to declare St. John Henry Newman a doctor of the Church. Your reaction to this, and what should his title be? They're holding that in reserve, I guess, until the big moment.
This is something the U.S. bishops have supported. We did take a vote of the full body of bishops and are supportive of declaring him a doctor of the Church. Of course, he's called the invisible father of the Second Vatican Council. So he's had great foresight into the role of the consultation of the lay faithful, and but in a way that is consistent with the Church's tradition and how the magisterium of the Church works. So I think this is a great step forward for us.
Yeah. What do you make, and we're seeing report after report of this, and considering that you're now celebrating this Latin Mass, and it's going to be an important one, I think, because of its national prominence, but there are a rash of continuing clampdowns on the traditional Latin Mass across the country. I know in May you expressed your hope for the restoration of Pope Benedict's Summorum Pontificum, which allowed the free celebration of the ancient rite. What do you think will happen now, particularly now that we have a new Pope?
I'm very inspired and encouraged by Pope Leo's vision and modeling of unity. He understands the need for unity, given the situation it came from in Peru, is his understanding of church governance. So I think we're in a very good position to try to build up greater unity in the Church. I can't help but believe that he understands that marginalizing people for the way they want to worship is not going to build up unity. It will only cause further divisions. On the other hand, I don't think he believes the correct approach is an equal and opposite reaction. So I think there will be sort of an incremental uniting of the whole family of God here. And I think there will be a relaxation in some way or another for people to have access to the traditional Mass.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's happy news for a lot of people watching. Look, Archbishop, as I travel the country, you go and see these traditional Latin communities, whether, I'm on my way into a Novus Ordo Mass, and you see crowds coming out with their children, or I visit them as I travel around the country. It's amazing to me, the young people that are drawn to this. Why do you think they're drawn in this way to what many thought was a forgotten or should have been a forgotten rite in the minds of some in the Church?
That Mass has different names we use to refer to it, as the traditional Latin Mass, the extraordinary form, the Tridentine Mass. The best way to name it, I believe, is the classic form of the Roman Rite. It has developed organically over centuries, and it attains the status of classic. Classic means that it's beautiful and worthy in every age, in every culture, for every generation. So there's no such thing as a new work of art that is a classic. It has to stand the test of time. And I think it has, and people are drawn to that because it has a certain sense of timelessness to it. And then, of course, the beauty and the reverence, which is very uplifting when it is celebrated properly, which I think nowadays most often is. That wasn't always the case in the past.
Yeah.
So I think it touches people in sort of an intuitive way that very often, unfortunately, the way the Mass is celebrated today does not. It doesn't mean it has to be celebrated that way. It can also be very inspiring and uplifting, and I've celebrated Novus Ordo Masses that way. But I think they're seeking this sense of timelessness that connects them to something beyond themselves, right? We all have this human desire for transcendence, and I think that Mass helps us to connect with that.
Yeah, Archbishop, as I was listening to you, we've been hearing so much talk of the synodal church, and we have to listen to the people of God, and we have to listen and bring everybody in, totos, totos, totos. When you see so many young people drawn to this Mass, the question I always get is, are the bishops and is the Vatican listening to us?
What I worry about is if they are kind of pushed to the side and marginalized, it will feed into a narrative that they criticize of those who like the traditional Mass, which I think is maybe in some cases, but not most cases, that we're the real Catholics. This is the best way. What people aren't the real Catholics. I don't think most people who worship who prefer that form of worship believe that. Maybe some do. But if they're punished that way, it's going to feed that narrative and encourage people who like the traditional Mass to think that way. Therefore, it
Yeah.
creates more division, which is why I think Pope
Hmm.
Leo recognizes that and somehow wants in a coherent kind of incremental way to build up unity among all forms of worship. There are certain ecclesial movements too that have ways of worshiping at Mass to build up unity among the whole family of
Yeah.
God.
Well, Archbishop, you and Cardinal Raymond Burke will be celebrating a solemn pontifical Mass in the traditional Latin Rite on August 5th, the Solemnity of Our Lady of the Snows. Now, Archbishop, what's the significance of that feast day? And tell us about the connection to the Pope's Basilica, St. Mary Major in Rome.
Yes, well, we know that St. Mary Major is the mother church of all churches dedicated to the Virgin Mother of God. And this Mass is dedicated to her under her two titles of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the Immaculate Conception. So this was the original vision of this Mass. I decided we needed to commit a Mass such as this when I saw back in 2018 we were going to have our archdiocesan-wide celebration of Our Lady of Guadalupe on December 8th. And I thought, again, it's the whole point of unity, right? Our patroness in the United States, Holy Day of Obligation for us, celebrating that Mass, Immaculate Conception in the midst of celebrations to honor Our Lady of Guadalupe, patroness of Mexico and all of the Americas. With all the divisions and polarizations and tensions on both sides of the border, we all love Our Lady. She all unites us as a mother into one family of God. So I envision this as being a Mass of unity, using sacred music, but incorporating the sounds and the melodies of the popular songs that Mexican people sing to honor Our Lady of Guadalupe, especially that Himno Guadalupano. And I asked our composer in residence, Baraka, to compose that. Now, as it turns out, it's a Mass of unity in another sense as well. I later asked Frank to adapt it to an extraordinary form Mass, as I was requested to celebrate a solemn high pontifical Mass at the Basilica Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. So this is another way we seek to build up unity with consistency of the two forms of the Roman Rite. It's the same music. There are some adaptations that are necessary, but it's the same music at both Masses. We had a special set of vestments commissioned for this Mass, the same vestments. And it draws people who devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe, to those who are attracted to the more traditional classic form of worship, to people who love their ministry with their Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters. So I see this as, in multiple ways, a Mass that builds up unity within the Church.
Back in May, you were appointed to the newly established Religious Liberty Commission by President Trump in order to protect religious liberty here in the U.S. We saw that recent victory for the Church in Washington State, which protected the sanctity of the Catholic confessional. Was this a concern for the Commission? And what else are you all focused on?
So President Trump formed this Religious Liberty Commission, and then 3 advisory committees, one of which consists of religious leaders. So I'm on the Religious Leaders Advisory Committee to the commission. This is an example, though, of why we need such a commission, these aggressive moves against religious liberty. This is a very reasonable, time-honored practice of respecting the seal of confession. And we see what happens in a highly secularized society that disrespects people's religious beliefs and practices, even though they're time-honored and very reasonable. So apparently in a highly secularized society, there are some groups of people, classes of people that are not accepted as being equal. So, and they're very often religious believers. So we very much need this commission to address these kinds of issues in our country right now.
Well, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone, we thank you for being here. We will leave it there. For more information on the August 5th Pontifical Mass at the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in LaCrosse, visit guadalupeshrine.org. Archbishop, thank you again.
Thank you.